Well, hello everyone. Mike Lowe here, SimSportsGaming.com, and we are already into episode 17 of our MLB The Show franchise stream. And joining me on the stream today is the one and only Ryan Hetzer, who is, as you will know from the Long Gone podcast, a podcast covering the St. Louis Cardinals and MLB talk, and also a fellow streamer at SSG with his Prospecting for Gold series that has been popping up throughout the last few weeks here up on our SSG YouTube. How's it going, Ryan?
Hey, Mike, how are you doing? Glad to join you for a little pregame talk here.
Yeah, this is something we're just going to kind of have just a pregame discussion. Again, this franchise is revolved around the slider set because I know most people are interested in that sort of thing to help with their gameplay. This is how Ryan and I kind of got connected as well. And so, again, it's an opportunity for us just to chat about that because I know some people don't want to just watch the entire game and that sort of thing. But it gives us a chance to look at some different things, talk about this franchise, and really how we're seeing things through about 50 or so games now for the Tigers and or for any of you. So, again, if you have questions, definitely put them in the chat. We'll see those. When we jump into gameplay, I think Ryan's going to end up turning the party chat off, and then he'll just be moderating the chat there. Eventually, we would like to actually get a full-blown two-man broadcast thing, but it's just we have to kind of spend some time fiddling with the technology behind getting that without lag and that sort of thing. So, but nonetheless, we're here, and we are excited to go. Ryan, did I miss anything? You want to maybe do a better plug for your podcast?
No, not at all. It's called Long Gone. You can find it on any of the podcast platforms that are out there. And a lot of the recent episodes are MLB The Show related. I mean, I had Mike and Ryden on the show. I did a podcast with Chris who created the Bacon's fictional roster, right. And that was a fun conversation. I know if anyone has never really tried to dive into the fictional roster world, I definitely recommend it. I was someone that hadn't done it for a while. I kind of resisted thinking, am I really going to care much about these fictional guys that aren't part of real MLB baseball? And you definitely get into it. It's an awesome roster. But no, I might jump into a question right away with you slider wise, because I think sliders are really important. I think for a lot of people that really want the most realistic experience that they can get. And like for me, I know that I've spent a lot of time in the game just fiddling and kind of got that slideritis. But then once I settled into yours, I've kind of joined the church of Mike Lowe. I mean, in terms of like whatever it is I see you recommending and doing, that's what I pretty much do, and it works out for me, and it actually has been great. So with the current set, I've heard you talk recently how they've been playing really well. I guess I've heard you say like when new patches come into the game, that's often when you have to kind of really take a step back and look. So maybe you talk about that process, like when a patch comes in, like what do you look for? How do you look to maybe adjust? And then also, I guess a two-part, second part to that would be, is there any particular slider area that you're looking at for a future 1.7?
Sure. Yeah. So with the first one, and by the way, I had up on the screen there that Bacon roster just for a little bit that Ryan was talking about, which I agree. I don't do a ton of fictional because I really don't get to dive much into MLB The Show outside of this franchise until the season's over. Because again, I do have a life outside of MLB The Show, and so just trying to get through 162 games on schedule. I mean, this is pretty much it. It's like 98% of what I do in this game is in franchise until October, basically. But anyway, the Bacon rosters, they are awesome. Super, super cool. I have used those in the past before, and they're really cool. And again, as Ryan mentioned, his one of the more recent episodes of Long Gone is where he interviews Bacon, who made that fictional roster, and just really, really cool. So the first slider question of, when a patch comes out, what am I looking for? I mean, the first thing is the patch notes, right? So a lot of times some of those details are right there. If you hold down the options button on the actual game icon on your PlayStation desktop there, it will show you kind of the feedback of some of the tweaks that were made, but they don't always go into details. So then a lot of times I'll check, Operation Sports or wherever. Someone is, even just on Twitter, if you just type in MLB The Show patch, and then I like to look around and see. And I know some people are like, well, let's just play and see how it goes. But I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to know what was tweaked, because truthfully, a lot of the patches don't tweak anything. And I'm grateful to the San Diego Studios team when they'll say things like, we adjusted this for Diamond Dynasty gameplay, because of course with franchise, I can just glaze over that and say, oh, all right, that doesn't impact anything. Which, for instance, the most recent patch talked about with MLB The Show, where they said like they increase the amount of contact that a hitter would make, and I about cried because I'm like, no, like that we need to be trending in the other direction with this game. There's already too much contact. And then it said it was only for Diamond Dynasty. So reading the patch notes is really the first thing. And then I just start to try and think about, okay, like, well, what are some things that I'm starting to see trend in my franchise? What are some things I'm starting to see people in the Operation Sports slider thread that I usually communicate the most with? What are some trends that people are identifying there? And there's always a huge grain of salt with that, because some people, they might just jump in and only post when they're super frustrated. Like, all I'm doing is hitting home runs. And it's like, okay, but does that just mean you hit 4 in one game? And what happened to the last 12 games, for instance, right? So I have to understand there's emotion attached to a lot of that's posted in that thread. And the same thing, like YouTube comments, people on Twitter, and then trying to take that all into account. I think one of the things that actually helps me kind of make this set popular with people is that I play like a lot of you. I'm not great at this game. I'm not like a top YouTube MLB The Show player, but I'm also not bad, and I know baseball, right? And so I think there's a lot of people who are going to invest this much time into franchise mode are people like you and me. And so I think that actually helps with the sliders. For instance, I don't even know what this slider set is. There's GDL. I literally don't know who this is, but they have a ton of downloads. They have a ton of downloads. 5,500 downloads in just the last 3 or 4 weeks here. And it looks like it's an arcade set, which maybe it's something, and my guess is maybe it's something that kind of makes the game play more like Super Mega Baseball 3 or something. I have no idea, but it's doing a great job. Those people probably wouldn't like my set, and just as I probably wouldn't like this set. And not that it's a bad set, that's just not how I want to play this game. And so again, I think we just kind of I guess it lends itself well to that sort of thing. I'm going to load the franchise back up to get to that next part of the question. But so what am I looking at for a potential 1.7? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't even say it's a potential. I mean, there will be a 1.7 at some point. This is the longest we've gone this season without a slider update. It's been a while now. I just had the 1.6 up and I forgot to even look at the date, but it's been up there a while. If just off the top of my head, I think human starter stamina is something I'm just having not a hard time with, but something we bumped it up to 6. I really don't think it would be a problem if it went to 7. The thing is, it's hard for my Tigers team because we have some starting pitchers, and I can back out and show you, who just have just terrible stamina. So Spencer Turnbull has 71 stamina, who I have up on the screen right now. I mean, that's bad. That's really, really bad. If I click to the next guy in our rotation is Daniel Norris, who's been really, really good for us, but he has 66 stamina. So, do I want to put it at 9 or 10 for my team? Yeah, for sure. Because it's kind of frustrating and I want to pitch later in games, but that's not really realistic. These guys, I have to be honest with myself and say these guys have just terrible stamina. So that's just how it's going to be. I think the bummer for me is that, like, why can't I stretch Daniel Norris out? If I click over to his stats, I mean, just last year he pitched 144 innings. That's no small amount. That's not a relief pitcher. He started 29 games. Your aces, if they pitch the whole year, usually start, 34, 35 games. So how this guy only has, a stamina of 66, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just a bummer that I can't really stretch him out, I guess, unless I went into training and had him focus on that. But even with, he's still young. He's got B potential. He's 26 years old, but his stamina is dropping. It's -1 right now. And so it's actually regressing, which is weird.
The other thing I'd love to see with that, and it just seems like would be a very logical and easy thing to do, but I wonder. I mean, I don't even know if they contain a stat like this within the game, but I wonder what his average innings pitched have been. Average innings
Sure.
pitched per start have been this year. Because if within the game, whether you're simulating or you're playing live, if you're getting a pitcher into the seventh inning consistently, well, the game should respond to that, right? And it should say, okay, well, this guy is pitched 7 innings, 3 of the past 4 starts, so maybe that stamina rating deserves a bump. And so, yeah, I mean, whereas if a guy is only getting through 5 each and every time, well, then maybe you could see that stamina rating would remain static or go down even.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So
So kind of
49
dang.
innings over
Yeah, so he's averaging
9 starts.
just about 5.5 innings, which I mean, a half innings kind of crazy, obviously, but I mean, so he's not his average start. He's not getting out of the sixth inning.
Mm.
Um, Now, if we just again really really simply just took those numbers for last year, and again, granted, the Tigers are terrible last year, so they might have been leaving him in. It's hard to say, but let's just do the game. I mean, see, this is hard too because he didn't start every game. Um, But let's just say, see, that's going to inflate. Let's just say he actually did start all 32 games, right? Because I bet you it'll still be higher. Well, it'll be 4.5 innings. So if we did just the starts, let's see, 144-ish divided by 29. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something there because that's less than 5 innings still. So
Yeah,
I'm actually getting more out of him than he did in real life last year. Um,
yeah,
and it's not like he pitched. He wasn't like a gas can last year. I mean, he's 4.49 is his ERA. So it's not like he was just getting lit up and getting pulled out. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. I guess that makes me feel a little bit better. I guess. Maybe
yeah.
I'm trying to remember because he's actually pitching today. So that'll be a good thing to kind of just see now because I believe I have pitched with him with the stamina at 6, but this one will be the first one we can really keep a close eye on and see how many pitches he's thrown. Because that's the other thing too. Like people track innings pitched so closely, but really it's pitches thrown, right? Like you don't track how many nights a week you sleep. You track how many hours a night you sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, like, yeah, no, I'm good. I slept 7 days this week. Well, like, what does that even mean? I mean, how many hours are you getting per night? And so like innings pitched, or I'm sorry, pitches thrown, which unfortunately, really any game is probably not going to track something other than out of the park baseball with that kind of detail. But um, pitches thrown, at least I don't think they track it. Pitches thrown is what's going to be what you want to see there. So
Hey, I got actually like a franchise question about your rotation. I'll come back to, but they had a couple folks in chat. Doug had with relation to sliders, um, he had bumped CPU and human power down to 4, and all error categories to 6. Now that's what there's been a lot of what I've read, a lot of criticism on the defense, and of course that can vary depending on whether or not you're playing auto defense or I think human control. But
sure.
I don't, I don't know what like. Do you have any particular thoughts on the whole defense the whole defense debate? I know it's been a lot of criticism saying defense is broken in this year's game and stuff like that. And any slider things you might be considering there that I feel like the outfield, just personally for me, I feel like the outfield, I guess you would say reaction is a little slow. But yeah, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I have a kind of a follow-up question for Doug.
Yeah.
So he's saying, I'm guessing in the previous 32 games, he was having a CPU batting average ball in play of 249. Doug, I guess my first question is, what team are you? And then two, I forget what the other question was now. Let me just reread his question here.
But team, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but the team does make a huge difference because,
Sure.
like, you know,
If you're the
when
Nationals or the Dodgers, I mean, that's not that
I mean,
bad.
like, I've tested around with a lot of different teams and stuff, and I mean, the way a game will play with the Marlins or the Orioles, I mean, and the difficulty and how it is much
Hmm.
different than with the Twins or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal.
So he's the Jays, which I mean, my first thought with the Blue Jays, one, Doug, I mean, it sounds like you're a pretty good player. Two, you play in a division that's just a home run fest. Fenway, Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards, those are all home run parks. And again, I'm not saying you've played all 32 of those games there, but in a division like that, you're going to probably see more home runs you're going to see like in the NL West, where you're playing the Padres, and well, I guess the Rockies are in that, so never mind. But you get the idea. Just certain divisions are going to probably yield more home runs. And so, but it's interesting because like everyone's hitting home runs. It looks like. I think you're even saying like the AI is maybe hitting, or did I read that wrong? Maybe not. But basically, you're lowering power and you're increasing solid hits, and I think that's fine. I mean, it's 249. First off, 249 over a 32 game stretch doesn't really mean a whole lot. I mean, that could be a couple hitters just going ice cold. Again, baseball is so weird because it sounds like, well, 32 games, that's a big sample size. I mean, it's not a big sample size. It's starting to be a respectable sample size, but it's still not very big. You got to think. I mean, baseball literally tracks a stat of like first half stats, second half stats. You can have a player who's cold the entire first half of a season. They could hit like 180, and then they hit 300 the rest of the year, and they end up hitting 260 or whatever that would be. And so, which that doesn't make any sense, but my math was terrible on that. But you get the idea. Um, it's really 32 games just isn't a ton. I mean, were there injuries? So I'm just trying to read his question again to make sure I'm answering it properly.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, the sample size issue is huge. I mean, I definitely think that um, you really have to let certain things play out if you're kind of micro reacting off of. And I mean, I know he's mentioning a little bit of a longer stretch of games, but yeah, the whole sample size issue when it comes to sliders, like you definitely don't always see or appreciate until you really get that fuller sample size of games because there's so much game variety. I think that one of the things your sliders provide is that I know playing, I'll have just in my own franchise recently, I had like a couple of like 8-6 games in a row, and then right afterwards I had a 3-1 game,
Yep.
and it just the experience is different, and so keeping that in mind, and even if you score 8 or 9 runs a game, 2 or 3 games in a row, well, okay, but what happens over 20 games? What happens over 40? So yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and Doug, I think you're doing the right thing. Is you're making adjustments for yourself, and that seems to be helping. So while I'm not a big believer in gut feelings or anything like that. I see what you're saying, but regardless, I do think that's the right thing. Is that you're tracking yourself, you're making adjustments for yourself, because you're absolutely right. If you've played Baltimore a bunch of times, I mean that team's hot garbage. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna probably score 8 runs every time you play them, especially if you're a good player. And so I think by increasing that, that makes a lot of sense what you're doing. I definitely am on board more with your talk of like adjusting errors and stuff, and that's what I want to kind of look at here. Because to go back to Ryan's part two of his question, errors is definitely probably the area I'm looking at most with starter stamina for pitchers. But I'm pretty comfortable with starter stamina. Like I said, I think we'll see a lot with Daniel Norris pitching today. And actually, yeah, he's pitching today. And so, but errors. So we can do a really, really just very, very simple activity. I mean, typically you see about one error per game, and that's combined between the two teams. So each team averages about half an error. And again, these are really, really vague, just over the course of recent modern baseball, about half an error per team per game. So I'm looking at this doesn't show what is my record. It's 22-27. So we played 49 games. So we should have around 24 or 25 errors, right? And I honestly don't know. I mean, I've looked at this. Oops, I've looked at this somewhat recently. But let's just go to errors. Now, again, I field a good defense. It is a priority. So yeah, we have 17. So is it low? Yes. But I think, bumping them all up to 6, I don't know. I would have to really kind of track it again and see. But again, try it out. Report it back. I mean, those are the things that probably aren't going to vary too much between user. Again, the defense you have is going to make a big difference, but it's not like Doug is just a great fielder, where Ryan's a terrible fielder. I mean, it's either, in essence, it's all auto fielding, right? I mean, you're just moving the guy in a position, so it's totally different than hitting. So it's way easier to track. So if I was first and I had like 9 errors, then that's going to be probably a problem. But we have 17 errors. We're 8th. To me, that's like, well, okay, I do really try to prioritize it. I guess the other thing is you could do is like go into player stats, and I believe somewhere this should have errors, right? Maybe. Are these all yeah, so errors. So sometimes just looking at things like this too, just to kind of see like the I guess the spread of like where these are happening. So you can see infield. We don't have a single error in the outfield yet, for instance, right? Now, if I click through here, you're seeing outfield. Now, let's go to the National League because I've played some of these teams. So I haven't played the Braves at all. And you see they have a few. They have a few outfield errors. They actually have a lot of errors, but they're also a pretty bad team. So we're seeing some outfield errors for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good call. I mean, that might be like the thing right there is 1.7. Let's at least bump up probably both outfields for now to 6 and see. And hell, I'll do it this game. Why not? We can definitely give that a shot here. Whoa.
Honey Badger makes maybe the best point of all, though. I mean, he says baseball is the most imperfect game there is, and I mean that's definitely a true statement. So, even when I see some of the different complaints on Discord and Twitter and that, it's just like, guys, don't you understand that that's baseball? The crazy things happen, different things happen. You might hit a ball right on the nose, right at the center fielder, and then the next time you hit off the fists and it drops in for a 2-run single. So it's
that
just
drives
like,
me nuts when I see that whole like, perfect, and it's a line out to center field. It's like, do you watch real baseball? That happens all the time.
yeah.
Like, how many times do you want me to go through your YouTube footage and find all the times that you had a garbage hit and like tweet that out to them too? Because like that's also part of baseball. And I had the same. I have tons of hits that I'm like, oh, that was awful, and it just falls in front of the right fielder. It's like, oh, cool. So it balances out.
You don't complain when you're pitching either, and a guy hits a laser right at your left fielder with the bases loaded. Like, you're fine with that.
It's literally the reason why like teams shift even, right? I mean, you see I'm just watching Victor Martinez play for the Tigers, and I mean, he would just line out to the second baseman in right field all the time, and it's like, damn. I mean, that's how it goes. There's a lot of line outs, and it's just unfortunate because that's a very loud crowd, and a lot of times, at least with the other sport games, they're getting their way. I mean, we see it in Madden. I mean, just a tremendous amount, that game shifting, to satisfy I guess more also like just the competitive crowd, like the tournaments and stuff like that they run, which is really cool. I mean, I think those tournaments are just a really, really cool thing to do. It's just, again, it's a style of play that I personally don't really care for. Because when I watch those guys, it's just like, QB draw with Lamar Jackson, QB draw, Lamar Jackson, rolling out of the pocket, Lamar Jackson. It's like, okay, it's not for me. But I think for sure I'm going to bump up fielding errors in the outfield. The throwing ones, like, it's already pretty tough to like throw people out at home. It's kind of 50-50, and I kind of like that. I think the next one I would bump up would be maybe the throwing errors. But I'm seeing those. I'm seeing those. What I'm not seeing enough of here is these. Now, again, these are major league guys. It's not like every game I need to have like Mike Trout overrunning a ball in center field. But I don't have any. And so, yeah, and I didn't notice that until we took a closer look. So I think that's a good call out. And again, not even a third of the way through the season. So it's not like, again, I'm ranked first in outfield errors. And plus, this game I'll probably have like 2 or 3 outfield errors now. Watch. So let's see. Yeah, Aris, I think, is being sarcastic. It says, fix the home run problem. Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, other things I'm looking at, not a whole lot, honestly. Base stealing is a freaking bear this year. Like, and again, I have to be careful because my team's just not very good. But I've been really tempted to bump that up. But when I look around the league, so many other teams, and that's honestly the only other change, but um, as I look around the league here, I'll go back to the team rankings, like stolen base percentage, I'm dead last because I've just been stupid. I've gotten picked off and those impact. I mean, just stupid. So like that's not really a fair rating at all. But the MLB lead only has 727. So I think as a whole, I agree. It's too hard to steal bases. But in simulated games, for whatever reason this year, it's also very hard to steal bases. Um, so I'm letting that play out for now to see and just trying to pick my spots a little better. And again, we're just not a base stealing team. It's not really something I guess philosophically that I'm a big believer in anyway, unless you just have a guaranteed guy or something like that. So, and there's nobody in this lineup that I consider a guaranteed base dealer at all. So even our little our pinch runner here, Brock Deathridge, I mean, 60 stealing is just slightly above average. It's not very good. So yeah,
Um,
and Doug, I see what you're saying about increasing that, but again, like that slider does not impact sim games. I've simmed it with that at 0, I've simmed it with that at 10, and it does not impact simulated games.
yeah, I have noticed though that the ratings are a bit very strange. I mean, I
Yes.
certain players, like I just take Colton Wong for example, the Cardinals. I mean, this is a guy I think in real life last year stole like 25 out of 27 bases, and then you look at his steal rating in the game, and it's like I don't want to say it was somewhere in the 20s. It's low, and so I just like where's the logic there? How do you take a guy? Where is it? Yeah, 34 and only 58 speed. So how do you take a guy who stole? I guess does it have his stats from last year?
Yeah,
How many he
24 and
stole?
4. I just put it up there.
Yeah, and so that just there's no correlation there. That doesn't it's
Yeah,
no
that's weird.
logic.
And
And
look
I've
at his
seen that
rate. Look at
in
his
other
stats for
teams.
this season, 6 and 5. I mean, that's a terrible
Yeah,
ratio.
yeah,
Um, but that's what he did in 18 exactly so far. So he's certainly still attempting the steals, but the problem is like he's running into outs.
yeah.
So truthfully, that's something that needs to be patched. Um, it does, and I don't want to go overboard and be like this needs to be patched and have everybody freak out, but like it does seem kind of low.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I know you probably want to get into some gameplay. I did. I had one question about your rotation. I mean,
Sure.
you have with the Tigers, and I don't know which of the three is performing the best in the minor leagues, but in knowing the system of the Tigers, that obviously one of the big reasons for optimism is kind of the big three of Mize and Skubal and Manning. And there's also kind of this prevalent thought in MLB that all of these stud pitchers are, most of them are at some point going to end up on the Tommy John cutting room floor. And, so there's kind of this thought that there's only so many bullets that each of these young guys have before they're going to need to, maybe to go undergo that cleanup. So when I look at your uh, roster and your pitching staff, I would be tempted if I were you, to kind of take the guy in the rotation that I'm maybe least confident in or not feeling very good about, and give one of your young guys a chance to see what they can come up and do and if they can make an impact, especially. So that was just a question I had in mind for you that I wanted to shoot at you.
Yeah, sure. Looking at the rotation actually hasn't really been a problem for us this year. It's actually been probably our biggest strength, other than maybe the back end of our bullpen.
Yeah,
Matthew Boyd's pitching a lot better. I mean, his stats are still a little inflated with that high whip you can see there, but he's pitched a lot better. Michael Fulmer's been again struggling, so yeah, he's definitely a guy that I'll come back to. We can chat about in a second here. Jordan Zimmerman's been a huge surprise. I mean, just again, he's not pitching lights out or anything, but definitely better than I thought he would. Spencer Turnbull is, I think, kind of pitching as I would expect. He was a former second round pick. And he also still has, he's B potential. Really 27 is kind of, entering the prime. And then Daniel Norris, again, pitching really, really well. Also be 26 years old. So I totally agree, but it's like, where do I put these guys? Like, who do we take out? And, maybe Michael Fulmer is a guy we could consider.
Numbers wise, Fulmer's numbers are a bit ugly. I mean, six and a half
Mm-hmm.
ERA.
Yeah,
Six
for sure.
6.3.
And he's through 54, so he's through, about a quarter or so of his starts, a little bit more, because he'll start 30-something games if he stays in the rotation. Some of it's just, he hasn't really been, he hasn't been good since 2017. So yeah, he's probably got the shortest leash for sure. I think one of the big reasons I keep him up is he's got good stamina. He can eat innings.
Yeah.
And at this point, we definitely need some inning eaters. And right now, I'm still trying to figure out, and that's kind of the title of this episode is like, what is this team? Like what is really their true identity? Because, Casey Mize is pitching okay in AAA, but really 3.82 in AAA for a top prospect's not great. That doesn't always mean a darn thing. I mean, in real life, a lot of times that just means the player's distracted, they're bored. You'll see players who have higher ERAs in AAA come up to the majors and they refocus and they're fine. And same thing here. He can eat up some innings, but it's really, really similar to Michael Fulmer's ratings at this point. And so for me, it's like we might as well keep his team control as long as we can, because once you call him up, that's going to start ticking his professional clock. Or I don't know if this game even tracks it properly. I'm looking on the screen here to see, but essentially, once you bring a player up, it starts that 6-year window. So I don't think Casey, not to mention he's 22, he's close. I mean, if we make a trade at the trade deadline, he's probably coming up. But right now, at this very moment, in kind of late May, I don't think he's quite ready. Tark Skubal, a similar situation. Of course, I like him a lot. I think he'll be good, but again, 4.91 ERA in AAA. Not jumping up and down just yet to bring him up. And then Matt Manning, who's down in AA as the ace down there, 3.92 ERA. Again, probably a guy who could come up and pitch for an injury. But with him being just 21, I would be surprised even if I brought him up this year. We'll see it.
Under one on the whip.
Yeah, right. So
pretty good.
Yeah. So he's doing a nice job there, and if kind of look at more. We can't look at much of his stats here. We can if we go to that player stat screen, but anyway, nonetheless, yeah, it's something. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. You're right. I mean, eventually these pitchers are, someone's going to get hurt, and really out of these, 3 or 4 guys, even if you include Alex Fido, these 4 guys, I mean, 2 of them probably are just not going to be any good, and that's the same for real life. I mean, they'll come up and just not be anything. I mean, I think back to Matt Bush being picked by the Padres, the pick before Verlander went number 2, and he was a can't miss shortstop, and he later made a comeback as a relief pitcher for the Rangers. But I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft and just didn't do anything. Had to change positions, and this stuff happens all the time. So, the other thing I kind of like about leaving them down in the minors is, trade bait. I don't think this game changes their contract when you bring them up, which is kind of bizarre. You'll have a guy making $60,000 pitching in the majors, but yeah. So anyway, that's just a long way of saying, like, I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. It's the positional area that we have the most strength to make a move from. Certainly, if we were going to be buyers this year, which is looking unlikely, but also potentially selling, because there's only so many starting pitching spots we can fill. So
cool.
Should we jump into some gameplay?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. What I might do, Mike, is just turn my mic off, and then maybe at least the first couple innings, if there's an opportunity, like in a half inning or something, I might jump in and shoot something at you.
Or when Heidi Watney comes on screen.
Sorry?
You can be the Heidi Watney. And
Yeah. Well,
we'll pause for some
God,
action.
don't compare me to her. But when she comes on, maybe then I can come on and
Yep. Be like, we're gonna hear from Ryan.
make some kind of point or give a question. But yeah,
I
I'll try
like it.
that. And
That's cool.
if it's a bit awkward on the delay, then I'll just jump out in the chat. But cool. Thanks for running
Yeah.
through all that for everybody.
Oh, for sure. No, thanks Ryan for helping out. Super appreciated. All right. Well, let's jump into some
Good luck.
gameplay.
Let's
It
get
is.
off this losing streak.
I'm hoping. Yeah. Speaking of, just looking at the calendar quick, it's been this road trip. This was supposed to be like we're gonna make a statement. Got two bad teams here on the road, and we won the first one, and just two. I mean, just like kind of heartbreaking losses to Seattle, San Francisco. Just beat us up a little bit in this series. Just our pitching, our bullpen, is coming back to earth for sure. So 26-26 Tampa team back at home, followed by a series against Seattle. So it's Ryan Yarborough versus Daniel Norris. We looked at Daniel Norris a second ago, but let's look at Ryan Yarborough. He's a pretty good pitcher, a lefty. He throws a lot of pitches that'll be down in the zone, just about everything, even that cutter, especially at 84. So he is definitely slow. I don't think he's a guy who's going to strike us out a whole lot with him being so slow, and he doesn't have a huge K per 9. He can be susceptible to the home run. If we look at his advanced metrics here, he hasn't been very good. And again, we do see the susceptibility to the home run at 1.99 and a low K per 9, which I'm not surprised by. So this guy is not very good. We should be able to hit him. What will probably happen is he will beat us 2-1 or something like that, because just the way the Tigers have been playing, that's just how it's been going. His changeup's going to potentially give us some trouble with it having a quirk attached to it. He's also a road warrior and a night player. So as much as I was joking about it, this legit could be a tough matchup because he has 3 quirks that are working for him in this game. So it'd be interesting to see the impact that can have. But yeah, let's jump on in.
I think the cutter sinker combination can sometimes be tough to pick up too out of the hand.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Usually with something like that, I will just try and tell myself like just try and make good contact. I don't have to crush it. And if that ball breaks down and away a little bit with the sinker, or if it cuts back in, I'm still going to be in the, pun intended, the ballpark of where that should be. So lineup changes against lefties. I've actually bumped Nico Goodrum up against lefties. He's been hitting a little bit better. He's amazingly now over 200 finally. And we just don't have a ton of other options. Cameron Maben's been a nice player, but he has not hit lefties as well. So I'm keeping him kind of in his comfort 6 zone. Candelario is going to start today against lefties. Good defender. And Harold Castro, everyone's favorite, is not going to be playing here today. We'll use him as a pinch hitter, which I think can be a good matchup. What I'm checking, and I need to get better at checking, is to see if we do have any quirks we can put in certain days to give us an advantage. So again, he's not a good one because he's a road warrior. Christian Stewart, first pitch hitter. Deathridge is just a fighter. So yeah, I think this is pretty much what we're going to go with. I do want to get Candelario some at bats. If the guy's on the roster and he's not playing, then why is he here? But otherwise, it's kind of business as usual with the lineup. Victor Reyes has moved to right field, as you can see. I take that back. Because Nico's going to play in center. Even though I usually like him at shortstop, I have to put Jordy Mercer at short. And Nico's our best outfielder, and it lets Victor Reyes play his natural position of right field, as you can see on the screen there. So anyway, that's it. Jumping in, here we go. Here's the lineup for the Rays.
Hey, Mike, at some point, I'm interested to hear you talk about your decision to go no PCI. Sometimes I see people come into the chat and they're like, oh, you don't use the PCI, and kind of like your thought process behind that, because I've gone the same way and I've enjoyed it, and I think it's more. You actually end up squaring balls up more than you think you might. So I was going to ask you that question.
That's a good question. I did not come up with that myself. I can't remember who directed me towards that. It was someone on Operation Sports, just on a random thread I was reading, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And they said the same thing you just said. They're like, don't knock it, try it, it's great. And I did, and I was like, oh, I love this. Like, and I honestly forget like the PCI is a thing. Like, I'll watch videos of someone else on Twitter, and I'm like, what the hell is that on the screen? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the PCI. So yeah, good question.
I find it best for like pitches that stay right in the middle, where you normally would have the tendency to jerk your PCI up or down.
Yeah,
That when you don't have a PCI, it's much easier to say to recognize. Oh, okay, that pitch is right
for
there. I
sure.
don't need to do anything. I just swing. You know.
Yep, absolutely. The Tigers definitely need this game. We it's been a rough slide, to say the least. But I remember reading some statistic. I've mentioned this on previous streams, even last year's streams and so on. But something like, and I wish I could find the source because I hope I'm not misquoting this, but it basically says like over the last like 100 years of baseball or something crazy, every single team, I don't care if you're like the Seattle Mariners when they won like 119,000 games, or the Tigers in 2003, every team has had both a 5-game win streak and a 5-game losing streak in the same season, like every single year. And again, maybe I'm completely off, but I'm pretty darn sure I read that because I remember thinking like, that's nuts. Like, you got to be kidding me that every single team has done that. So you're going to have those stretches. And again, that's where it's really, you have to be patient, and you have to be patient with your slider adjustments, right? And just know like, hey, my team's just playing poorly. They're just not playing that well. And that's not a slider issue per se. It's just players get cold. That's how it goes. Again, I keep using the sleep analogy. It would be like if your significant other or you had a friend or something, and you're hanging out, and they're just dead tired, and they're not talking to you. They're not good conversation, and you're like, what's going on? I mean, I gotta raise up the talking slider. These guys, no, they're just tired. They just don't feel well, or whatever it is. It's not always a slider thing. It's how it goes.
1 strike.
James Kingsley, a shout out to Ryden, the roster maker there. I don't think there'll ever be an umpire named Lowe. I complain about their game too much. Uh-oh. Oh, it's going to stay in. Oh, there's our outfield errors, guys. First ball hit to the outfield. Error. They'll probably score that a triple. So that's one of the... Yeah, see, they scored that a triple. So that's one of the reasons why I actually don't like that slider up, is that... so even if you want to call that an error, like, okay, cool. It'll get the stats right, but they just scored that a triple. So it just made for a bad game, and it didn't fix our error problem. But I'm willing to leave it on. We'll see how it does. Again, small sample size, right? Eagle Goodrum is not a true center fielder. I also left that pitch in a really bad spot. It's not where I wanted it. Hunter Renfro, tons of power. Former Padre. I remember, gosh, he hit so many home runs. Every game I went to, I felt like Hunter Renfro was hitting a home run. And that's all he ever did. Well, this at-bat goes from saying, kind of almost conceding the run to saying, hey, we might be able to get out of this without giving up a run. Excellent. I will happily take that. We might walk Hunter Renfro here.
Batting fourth, the left fielder, number 11, Hunter Renfro.
Do you guys ever stand up when you game sometimes? Sometimes I just have to like stand up. Sitting too long. Yeah, we're definitely going to walk him. Actually, hold on a second. Let's see. So 67 contact. But he's a road warrior. He's only hitting 226. But it's hard to turn down a lefty on lefty situation, so. And you could pitch around in this instance, but we already looked at his stamina of 66 or 67, whatever it is.
The designated hitter, number 25. Ball inside.
Honestly, just wanted to hit it up in the air.
The count is 2-1.
That was not a good pitch. Damn. Probably going to score 2. Nope, just the 1. I didn't feel like I should throw that slider there, but I trusted the catcher. Just didn't make a good throw. 1-0. How many people are at Comerica Park? It's way too easy to sell games out here. It's just kind of like, it kind of cheapens when you really do get a real sellout, like a playoff game or something. Like, this should not feel or sound like a playoff game. A little two-seamer here.
Ball, that's out.
Now I'm nervous every time I hit it to my outfield. But that animation does not, I think, have an error option with it. So a lot of those animations are branches, right? They have like, you see this in most video games. But that, where he kind of leans back, I don't think there's a branch that would lead to an error on that. Ryan Yarborough, I saw some people in the chat saying they're having trouble with him. I'm sure we'll make him look like an all-star. Just gonna check the chat really quick here, just to see. Okay, looks like I'm caught up.
Leading up for the Tigers, the shortstop, Jordy Mercer. That's the ball.
That's where we're gonna see a lot of pitches, though. Is down in that lower third region there. Ooh, yeah, he's slow. He is slow.
Count 2-2.
Okay, he's not that slow. Ooh. That's a good pitch. I was not looking up there.
Batting second, the center fielder, Nico. Good draw.
Ball, that's out.
So is that an infield error slider on that play, or is that an outfield error slider?
Batting third,
I would guess it's
the
an
designated
infield.
hitter, Miguel Cabrera.
Much better player at home. Hitting 337, finding those gaps in Comerica Park. That's over the wall. Nope. Thought that was a home run. Yeah, Matt Bush did have some issues. I'm just reading back through some of the comments. But I'm glad he bounced back. That was cool. I mean, it was just good to see.
One ball, two strikes, the count. Ball two. Full count, 3-2. Ball four, that pitch is low.
That's just not a good at bat for a guy like Daniel Norris, who doesn't have a lot of stamina. He's already 26 innings. I'm sorry, 26 pitches into this game. Only 3 outs recorded. Part of that's a me problem. I've been doing that a lot. Just trying to be a little too fine.
Nope, that's the ball.
Like that. Look how many people are in the crowd. It's kind of ridiculous.
Hey! No, he's in there. Nope, that's down.
Batting ninth, the catcher, Mike Zunino.
It's a nice hit. Yeah, that was not a good pitch. That's gone. Man, Tigers aren't playing well right now. People in Detroit got to find something else to do.
Now batting, the center fielder, Kevin
Ball one.
Kiermaier.
That's a ball.
Good grief, he still has nobody out. 33 pitches in. This is not going to be a long start for him. That ball's gone too. All right, well, Tampa's not playing around. So Norris is getting lit up. Their 9 and 1 hitters just went back-to-back home runs on us. A lefty on lefty.
Now batting,
Actually, I'm going to warm up on...
Jose.
We're going to skip Spencer Turnbull starting the rotation just to kind of get us back on schedule. So I'm going to warm up both these guys, actually. Oh, boy. Man, they're just hitting everything hard.
Now batting, right.
Getting us a true center fielder, again, whether that was Nico Goodrum was a triple or an error, that's probably tops on my shopping list, though. You know, Riley Green's a big prospect for the Tigers, but he's only 19. If we make a trade, we move some vets. I mean, same thing with shortstop, honestly. It's going to be a player who can be kind of a defensive cornerstone, but also, you know, swing the bat. Center field, shortstop, maybe second base,
2 balls, no strikes.
maybe even catcher, but Daniel Norris, you got to pitch better than this. Man, just
I got 3
pitching
balls,
terrible with him.
1 strike. Ah. 3 and 2.
I'll throw a change up here.
The left fielder, number 11.
Huh, so that's interesting. Our team ERAs in the American League, 6 from the bottom. It's kind of middle. Well, lower third, I guess.
Ball, that's down. Hey! 1 and 1. The count is 1 and 2. Two count. The count is full. 3 and 2. He's out.
Tough inning.
Just gotta chip away, Mike. Chip away.
The second
Yeah,
got us there.
that's how you gotta think about it, though. Again, I always say when you're down like this, pitching is still more important than hitting. Just not letting it get more out of control. It's not what you want to see after just a 10-pitch inning is a 1-pitch out.
Batting fifth. The
The
first
tale of two teams right now. See, we need to get our own Kevin Kiermaier. I don't want him. He's probably a little too old, but somebody can just put out there in center field, run everything down.
Inside ball.
batting sixth. The left fielder, Cameron Maybin.
Back outside. I got the count 1 and 2. Two balls, 2 strikes.
I think those player quirks may have come into play on that swing because I feel like I hit that pretty well. No, 5-0. There's no sense in. I mean, I'm going to pitch Daniel Norris a little bit more. No sense in crushing our bullpen.
Leading off for Tampa Bay, the designated hitter, number 25.
Nope. Counts 1 and 0. Got him.
It's a weird animation.
Up
The
next
way
for Tampa Bay, the
he fielded
shortstop,
that ball. It's like someone playing slow pitch softball or something. 5 games back, last place in the AL Central. About where you'd expect Detroit to be. Probably even a little bit better. They had a pretty hot start to the season last year. They were in the mix, as much as you can be, I guess, in the first month, but they fell off the planet after that, though.
Ball. I got a ball, 1 strike. One ball, 2 strikes to count.
Jonathan Scope's been busy today.
Out.
now batting, number 8.
You make your first trade, though, in a 162 game play every game, every pitch franchise, though. Gets pretty exciting at that point. It's like you're putting your first mark on a team. And I did that a little bit with the free agent signings before we started, but
Inside
Problem is, we don't really have a lot to sell off. This isn't like the old Tigers where you traded David Price or something like that.
No, that's down.
3-0. Daniel Norris, come on, give yourself an easy inning here.
Mike, who do you see as some of your potential sell-offs if you decide to sell a little bit that could get you some value in return?
Who do I see? Did you say, or how do I see?
Yeah, who do you maybe see as individuals that could get you something? Yeah.
I mean, I'd trade anyone on this roster. There's not a single person, I don't think, on the 26-man roster who I wouldn't be willing to move.
Leading up for the Tigers, the right fielder.
I'm really hoping Cabrera somehow plays himself into a position where we can move him. I doubt it because he's owed like $32 million a year the next 3 years. But we can afford that. I mean, he's the only big contract they're going to have. Zimmerman's going to be gone. So again, Zimmerman, another guy I would love to try and trade. Jordy Mercer, any guy who's like putting up pretty good numbers for us would be great. But there's really not a lot. Matthew Boyd might be able to get something in a return. I don't know. There's just not a lot, and maybe our what's his face, Vizcaino. I could see him again just being one of the top, if not the top closer in baseball right now for us. He'd probably be more the most likely guy on his pace to be an all-star this year. So I guess if I had to pick him, or if pick one, it'd be him.
Nope, outside. Two balls, no strike.
Victor Reyes is a guy I'd like to keep around. I wish I could train him to be a better center fielder as opposed to right fielder, but man, it's hitting it right at guys. I really think Yarborough's quirks
The catcher,
are coming into play here.
Roger.
At least we're not in that division.
He's out.
Batting ninth, the third baseman, Jamer Candelario.
One and one. The count is 1-2. Ball two.
Ryan Yarborough making him look like an all-star. I was worried that might happen. Perfect game through 3 innings.
Leading off for the
Keep
Rays,
these guys
the
ready.
third baseman, number 2,
So at this point, I'd go to one of those guys, but...
One ball, one strike. Ball back outside. He's out.
Now batting, the catcher, Mike Zimmerman.
Das Cameron, the son of Mike Cameron. Riley Green, who we talked about earlier. Now made it up to Double A. We think there were some injuries there, so moved him up from A-ball. I don't usually like to let teenagers even get up to the Double A level. That was kind of out of necessity, but he's doing a nice job. Maybe we won't need to trade for a center fielder. Maybe Riley Green will be ready sooner than I'm thinking.
Ball, that's too high.
What's the crowd cheering, like trying to make him drop that? At least through my headphones they were. That was weird. They just want to see the infield error slider in effect. They're like Doug. There's a bunch of Dougs in the crowd today saying like, more outfield errors. Even if it's our own team.
0-1.
Weird. Daniel Norris has been on. He's been pretty sharp. He's already into the yellow for his stamina. That was the 72nd pitch there. And probably his last inning at this point. Spencer Turnbull's been good. I have no problem bringing him in. I'd rather leave Ivan Nova for... Well, I want to pitch Turnbull because he's going to be in the rotation again, and I don't want him to pitch too long.
Jordy Mercer.
But we are skipping him. He's our fourth starter, so... I don't know. I probably won't pitch him at this point. I should try to sit him down. Man, that high cutter comes in fast. And I am just looking down in the zone pretty much.
Up next for the Tigers, the center fielder, Nico. Good draw.
Whew. Damn, I was looking up there for it that time. I was out of the zone. This is ridiculous.
Now batting, the designated hitter, Miguel Cabrera.
No, I guess I wasn't looking up there. My cursor was nowhere near it. Poor Miguel. Hit the ball twice is really hard. Player quirks coming into play, or so it seems. Let's see what our wind's doing. Wind's blowing in, so that's having somewhat of an impact.
Leading off for Tampa Bay, the first baseman, Jose Martinez.
I don't want to pitch when we're in here.
Now batting, right fielder, Austin Meadows.
So again, right, he's barely out of the fifth. But this is about where he'd want to be as far as like pitch count, right? So if I can get through these last two hitters in 3 pitches somehow, he'd be right on pace, and that's his average, right? So am I pushing it with the energy? A little bit. I've noticed that doesn't impact starters as much as it does relievers. That's going to be caught. Yikes. Well, maybe I will get through at 75 pitches. So I guess in short, I'm pretty happy with stamina being at 6. I mean, it feels right. For all the reasons we talked about at the beginning of the stream.
Ball. Count 1-0.
I'm going to go change up here. Ah, bad pitch.
2-0.
Could be trouble. Oh my goodness. It's not a good pitch. This is like when you're playing Diamond Dynasty against someone like you know you're better than, and like they just keep getting these like scrubby hits, and your hits are just long outs. Like that wasn't even a good swing. Man.
Now batting, number 25.
I would have had him out long ago, but a 6-0 lead, there's no sense in like just carving through my bullpen. I'd rather just let the starter go and get his pitches in and eat innings. We start making it close, obviously that changes, but he's done now. That was it. She has a nice lip gloss. I mean, I'll give her that. Of course, the video game I'm referring to. I'm sure Heidi Watney's a great reporter. I know nothing about her. I've never seen her on a game or anything like that. But in the video game, she doesn't have the best reputation, which is unfortunate for her, and that's why I still think they should let you skip that, because it's just kind of giving her a bad reputation from people who probably don't even know anything about her. It's just not cool. It's going to be one of those guys, probably, unless we start making it a little closer.
Ball 1. Ball 1, no strike. Ball, that's low.
Are you kidding me? I'm telling you guys, those player quirks are for real.
Up next for the Tigers, the first baseman.
Fewest home runs, look at that. In the American League. Yikes. We probably lead in warning track power. Yeah, wind's blowing in. I mean, that's a home run, probably. Instead, the perfect game stays intact.
1-0.
Hey, got a hit. Wasn't looking there, but again, if you can recognize a ball outside, you can usually, especially against a shift like that, you can usually put pretty good swing on it. Look at all these people. For a last place team, damn. Just right at guys. Our pitcher, right? Maybe 80 pitches through 5 innings. Their guy's at 43 right now.
Right hand.
But again, his quirks, right? He's a road warrior and a night player. And he has an illusionist that for some reason doesn't show up on the screen. Yeah, it's a bad matchup when you face him at home.
Off the plate, ball 1. Count is 2-1.
Trying to hit the right field here. Oh man, Ryan Yarborough, what is going on?
Leading off for the Rays, the shortstop, Willie Adame.
A lot going on in the chat. I haven't been able to keep up. Sorry, guys. But we're going to the bullpen. And with it being the 6th, probably have these guys pitch a few innings.
Hey, Mike, I'm back. Someone, Eris, kind of continues to reference a home run issue. I mean, obviously, like, if you felt like home runs were a problem, you would have mentioned that slider. I mean, you've given up a few this game, but, do you feel like home runs are an issue with your slider set on Legend? And he's referenced that a couple times in chat.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's funny because earlier we had someone saying that there were too many home runs for the user, not enough for the hitter, or it's for the AI. The Tigers, I didn't look going into this game, but we have been in the top 10 for home runs allowed. We're dead last in home runs hit, but that's because the power slider was the hardest one to kind of get narrowed down with the game patches that were happening when the game first came out. And again, my Tigers team is bad, and me just adjusting to the new game, all those sort of things. And so, but that's gone up. I mean, you don't see it this game, unfortunately, but I mean, I've been hitting more home runs with the Tigers for sure. And we've been giving up a lot of home runs lately, no doubt. But we hadn't been for a while. I mean, again, I had the 2 leading vote getters for bullpen pitchers in our setup guy, Xavier Cedeno, and Aroydis Vizcaino, number 1, like in baseball. For all-star voting, and that's obviously changed recently after Cedeno's had a pretty rough week, and So no, in short, I don't see an issue at all. That's probably one of the most user-dependent things in the game, just like swings and misses are. I mean, it's up to the person really to monitor it. And I think it was Doug earlier saying in the chat how he's made some adjustments because he's seeing too many or whatever it was, and that's perfect because home runs come from, again, great timing, squaring up the ball, and those are the two hardest things to do in baseball. And some people just aren't going to be as good at it as others. And it's the same reason why swings and misses can be really sporadic. So, no, I'm not worried one bit because, I mean, I'm tracking it for my talent with the game and for my franchise. So everyone's a little bit different. And, again, feel free to click around.
Not to mention that, I mean, I think last year there were more home runs hit than ever before.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely trending up.
Art imitating life in somewhat too, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Strikeouts are up too. So it's, swings and misses.
Nope. Ball 1.
Yeah, Yarborough's been tough to hit. It's an out. And it's weird because he hasn't been tough to hit. He hasn't been. I squared it up fine. I'm telling you, if you run into this guy and you're at home, it's terrible. His quirks, and it's a night game, which of course a Friday night game it is. It's just awful. I mean, you're done for because you square up pitches and they're just going right in, especially when the wind's blowing in. I mean, it's just yikes. That's how you end up getting one hit so far through 5 innings. That's a nice hit. That was a bad pitch. But that's why Alex Wilson's in the game. He's not a very good pitcher. Just eating innings.
Now batting, the third baseman, Jordy.
Right down the middle. Two-seamer had hardly any break to it. That was a much better two-seamer. And I do like that the game does that. Like, if you hit your mark, it's a better pitch. It's got better movement, better location, all of that. It makes a lot of sense. It's one of the reasons why I really like meter. And see, just late, it doesn't mean it's a disastrous pitch. And that was early timing. If I had timing on, it was probably a strikeout. This one I'm just trying to put out of the zone. There we go. I didn't even use a lot of effectiveness on that, but hit my mark, hit my spot.
Now batting, catcher, Mike Zunino.
Look at those numbers, and hits a 3-run homer in the second. Ay, ay, ay. Doesn't matter though. 1-0, 6-0.
Down 0-2.
Doesn't matter if can't score.
I got the count 1 and 2.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. How do you lay off that? No, I'm going back to the slider. He hasn't been able to touch that.
The count is full.
Slider again. It's his primary pitch. There we go. It's a good inning for Alex Wilson.
Leading up for the Tigers, the catcher, Jake Rogers.
I'm gonna probably let Wilson pitch again. If it gets close or closer, I'd probably go to Nick Ramirez. So Daniel's hurt. I think I forgot to mention at this top of the. She's got a day-to-day injury, so he's not pitching. So Ramirez is their only lefty right now.
Nope, that's down.
Right at it, guy. But that's realistic. That's what happens if you try to pull an
Now
outside
batting,
pitch a lot of
third
times.
baseman, Jamer Candelario.
I thought that was the cutter. That's why I swung at the timing there.
Outside, that's the ball. I got 1 ball, 1 strike.
Big spit swing. Look at those pitch counts. My God. Oof. There we go. More quirks.
The batter, number 9, shortstop, Jordy Mercer.
Aye. 0-1.
So that stat there, right? 9 for 29. That's almost exactly the same statistic as I think Doug was saying about, I've hit 29 home runs in 8 games. Sample size. Do you think Jordy Mercer is, for his career, is he going to be a 9 for 29 hitter? Betting basically over 300 or over 333? I mean, of course not, right? Look at this guy. Like he's nothing special at all. And most of his at-bats are against righties, but so it doesn't mean I'm turning on the contact slider, right? He's just his batting average ball in play is probably really high, which is just unrealistic, and it probably won't continue. We can even look at that at the end of the stream, just someone to remind me, but I don't think you can see. Does it even track that on the screen? It might. But it's probably really high. 300 is about the average. Come on, have it in the game. Don't be lame. It's gotta be in here. They have all kinds of advanced metrics here. Are you serious? Did I miss it? They don't have batting average and ball in play? I mean, we could calculate it ourselves, but I don't want to do that right now, but they don't have that, do they? Oh, that's crazy. But anyway, yeah, I would be shocked if it wasn't really, really high.
Ball.
That's a good pitch.
Got him.
One hit. A lot of hard hit balls, though. Ramirez, you can have a seat. Vizcaino was just thinking, like, what am I eat tonight? What steakhouse am I going to go to? He knows he's not pitching today.
Leading off for Tampa Bay, the center fielder, Kevin Kiermaier.
Oh, if we do need someone to pitch, well, it probably would be Ivan Nova, honestly. Left that over the plate. Got lucky.
Now batting, the first baseman, Jose Martinez.
Yep, that ball went out.
Swing like that tells me this guy's not seeing the ball very well. He has a really high contact rating. So, I don't know. I guess I won't make that assumption, but...
I got 2-1 the count. I got the count 2-2.
I actually think I can strike him out with a four-seam fastball up and in. Ooh, almost. Now I bet you could throw the slider.
He's out.
Now batting, right fielder, Austin Meadows.
Another good hitter, Road Warrior. The biggest bummer about losing at home
0-2.
is you got to pitch 9 innings. Losing on the road, at least you're only pitching 8 innings. Saves your bullpen a little bit. And this game was in Tampa. They'd only have one more inning to bat.
One ball, 2 strikes the count. I'm out.
I want to go back to my slider here. Well, Alex Wilson pitched really well today. I guess we were looking for one bright light. He pitched really well for 2 innings.
7th inning, Surratt.
Oh my gosh, what a terrible game. But I'm not even mad about it. Like I said, it's not like I'm just taking terrible swings. I've made decent contact. It's just not happening today.
Good
Yeah,
draw.
so we'll probably let Ivan Nova pitch the last couple innings. Maybe even Joe Jimenez. Again, if it gets close. If it gets really close, it'll be Buck Farmer, but gotta have faith. Here we go.
Ball, that's out.
Games like this will make me excited to play tomorrow's game. Gosh, I just couldn't stay back on that.
He's out.
Up next,
Yeah, Ryan Yarborough is a bit of a
the
mystery.
designated hitter.
He's not hard to hit, but he's really hard to hit.
Renfro.
It's very strange. Cabrera could have 2 home runs today. Another ball, just squared up right at a guy. 60 pitches. We're almost through the 7th inning.
Now batting, second baseman, Jonathan. Go.
I mentioned we probably wouldn't strike out a lot today. I think it's once or twice. No walks. He's too easy to hit. I'll probably never walk against this guy. He's gonna get that pitch until I have 2 strikes all game if he wants it. Ooh, good pitch.
No ball, 2 strikes. The count is 1-2.
Actually, I'm going to bring in Joe Jimenez here. I want to get him some work. I'd rather save our long reliever in case a guy gets hurt in like the first inning or something.
Leading off for Tampa Bay, the left fielder, number 11.
Not to mention, I don't think I trust Ivan Nova against some of these guys. So I'll let Joe get an inning, and then we'll see how the ninth goes.
Now pitching for the
But
Tigers.
a bit of an audition here to see if Joe can regain his form and
Joe.
maybe get back into the mix of pitching in some important spots.
The count.
I was going to say, he must have a pretty low contact rating.
The count 1-1.
Now batting, number 25.
One ball, 1 strike. Two, the count.
The batter, number 1. Shortstop, Willie Adame.
A lot of Road Warrior quirks in this team.
Yeah. That's a ball. 1-1. Hey, 2. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Well, that was an excellent inning for Joe Jimenez. Struck out the side. Now, if only he can do that when it's not 6-0.
Leading up for the Tigers, the first baseman, C.J. Cron.
The only hit, this guy.
0-1.
1 hit. Oh, that's not a good swing.
0-2 is the count.
See that cutter? It's just so slow. Oh, he's got 6
Now
strikeouts.
batting, left fielder, Cameron Maybe.
We are making this so easy for Mr. Yarborough. Hey! He's clutching his elbow. It could be anything. Oh, I thought it said, the hope is that it's something serious. That's what I thought it said. It's like, I agree.
Your attention, please. Now
Oh, great.
pitching
This
for
guy's
Gray,
movement's ridiculous.
Number 63, Diego Castillo.
26 Ks and 21 in the 3rd innings. Can be a little bit wild.
Now batting, right fielder,
Throws very, very hard.
Reyes.
This is going to look crazy fast after Yarborough, so wanted to take one. I'm glad he threw his fastball. The slider breaks really early. That's kind of a way you can cheat with some of these guys who throw hard, is just look for that immediate break. Same thing with the sinker. It breaks really early. Look fastball, react to everything else. It's just the simplest rule. And then watch the damn ball. I tried to check my swing there. Oh, his sinker's even really quick.
Full count, 3-2.
Oh, I guess we should adjust these really quick. Oh, good pitch. 2 strikes, I had to be looking at fastball. He got me at this slider. Smart pitch. Ooh, Tampa. Looking like a good team today.
Leading off for Tampa Bay, the second baseman, number 8. Ladies and
Give
gentlemen,
Nick Ramirez some work. He's only pitched 17 innings
now pitching
and
for
2/3 this season.
number 63. Nick
More of a contact guy. He's had trouble against righties.
Ramirez.
Let him get some work in here. Games like this, though, make the wins that much sweeter. They make the close games that much more rewarding. Nice, what I said, these games make me really just excited for tomorrow's game.
Full count, 3-2.
Now batting,
Threw mostly all cutters that at bat, so coming out with that sinker,
Diaz.
especially after I saw him lay off that cutter outside, which was a really good pitch, and for him to lay off it just told me he just saw it too many times. So
All ones the count.
getting some bad swings from Diaz here today in general. Let's put a cutter in the dirt here.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
I'm gonna throw the sinker this time. Yep. That's a good pitch for him today. Bullpen's pitching really well.
Now
It's a
batting,
shame.
catcher, Mike.
Again, we didn't hit. Our starting pitching didn't show up today. I don't think I've ever seen Nick Ramirez with the wide landing zone or sweet spot, whatever that's called, in the pitch meter. It's funny, I actually have more trouble hitting that wider one for some reason. He's sharp today, Nick Ramirez.
I got the count 1 and 2.
I haven't thrown the knuckle curve yet, and with his low contact, this much movement, he'll have trouble. Yep. Especially if I hit my spot. So Nick Ramirez has 6 straight strikeouts for the Tigers. At least. I'm not sure what Daniel Norris's last out was, but for the 8th and 9th inning, that's 6 consecutive strikeouts. Again, am I adjusting the sliders? Nope, because that's the first time that's happened all season. I'm just saying, cool. We just struck 6 dudes out. Just stuff like that happens in baseball.
Roger.
Count 1 and 0.
I take a strike.
Ball. Down.
1-run game, I'd probably let him swing 2-0.
Inside, ball 3. Nope. Ball 4.
4-pitch walk. Take that. It's first walk of the day. It's only our second damn base runner all
Now
game.
batting, the third baseman, Gamer Candelario.
Do I want to pinch hit here? I mean, he's got good discipline. That could actually come into play pretty well here. I think I'm just let him bat. I mean, you could save these pinch hitters in case it gets closer, but same thing though, I'll take a strike. He's got really good discipline. It's a little harder to throw strikes to a guy like that. We're going to take our base too, but they're going to concede to us.
Steal.
I should have swung at that. That was a good pitch.
The count is 1 and 2.
Oh, goodness. That was hard to catch up to.
The batter, number 9, shortstop, Jordy Mercer.
Yeah, that ball was pretty much by him by the time he swung. Couldn't even get the cursor up there in time. Jordy Mercer. See, if he wants to throw one right down the middle, I'll take a hack at it. Guy's been hot the last week and a half or so. He's had all 4 home runs in like the last week after having none. He's loving the leadoff spot. Good, keep doing it so I can trade you.
Your attention, please. Now pitching for the Rays, number 47, Oliver Gray.
Well, everyone's been hitting this guy. Let's see what we got here. Got a good split finger fastball. Pretty good pitcher, actually, as far as ratings.
Nico.
We're going to pinch hit Nico, though. He's not a good matchup here. Oops. Yeah, might as well go Harold Castro. Get some guys on base here.
Your attention, please. Pinch hitting for the Tigers. Number 30.
Harold Castro's an interesting guy. You know, like, is this a guy we should look to move while he's hot, or try and build around? I don't think he's going to probably keep hitting quite like this. He's also not a very good defender. That guy's got long legs up on the mound. Dang. Okay, there's a split finger, so I just took a pitch there.
I got a ball, 1 strike. One ball, 2 strikes.
That quirk made it really hard to even make contact. That's Ryan Yarborough.
Designated hitter, Miguel Cabrera.
Drinking invisible Gatorade. Last chance here.
Nope, outside.
That's going to do it. Tough game. I'm assuming I don't need to check my batting average and I'm ball and play on this one. But I'm curious what theirs was, because they actually hit a lot of home runs. Theirs is actually probably really low, too. It's probably really low.
7 hits, no errors. They left 3 men on base.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. Let's see.
For the Tigers, 2 runs on just 2 hits, no errors, and they left 1 man on base. Time of the ball game, 3 hours and 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us here tonight. And we remind you to please drive home safely.
So Tampa had 34 at-bats. They had 7 hits. A lot of those hits were home runs, though. 3 of those hits were home runs. No sac flies. We only saw that one goofy play in the outfield. They struck out 12. Yeah, theirs is going to be incredibly low, 12 strikeouts. So 211 was their batting average from ball and play. So, dang, it's the long balls killed us today. But again, I'm a top 10 team. I'll show you at the end of this. I'm a top 10 team in home runs allowed. So that's not normal. That's not something I'm worried about one bit. I'm actually kind of relieved to see that. They had a triple, which was really more of a weird error. A couple doubles. Yarborough, of course, just lights out. Tigers, ours, I'm not going to calculate it. It's going to be just ridiculously low. We actually struck out 9 times. Just the 1 extra base hit. Jordy Mercer has twice as many home runs as Miguel Cabrera. It's just wild. Daniel Norris, that's probably his worst outing of the year after being really, really good most of the season so far. And again, our bullpen, look at that. That's a lot of strikeouts from our bullpen. Yeah, the last 6 outs of the game, all strikeouts. I forgot, it was Alex Wilson. So yeah, we had a stretch going back. I'm going to actually look at that. So we know the 7th and 8th were all strikeouts. Kiermaier flew out for the last out in the 7th inning. So it did go back. So we had 7 straight strikeouts in this game going back to the 7th inning because Meadows struck out to end the 7th. That's wild. Pitcher analysis, 64% strikes for the Rays, 60% first pitch strike. Tigers 65% strike, 60. Again, those look good. Those always tend to look good. If not, you just need to adjust how you're honestly where you're trying to put the ball. Our foul balls were quite low because we were making pretty good contact today, or we were just swinging so early that we were missing. So that's not a huge surprise. We had a ton of swings and misses. I'm surprised by that. Not necessarily with how I was playing, but I guess before the game I didn't think I'd have that same issue, and we definitely did. That's a ton of swing and misses. So did they, 32, a little high there. Foul balls were a little high for them too. So, but yeah, it was a rough game. That's how it goes sometimes. We're just in a very, very cold stretch right now, which is unfortunate, but we'll bounce back. And if not, hey, we'll start thinking about the Tigers for next season. So, I wanted to show you guys team rankings for home runs against, right? So home runs allowed, where I'm at now, 13th. So, before this game, again, I was in the top 10. So I don't see any issue with that myself. The one adjustment we made, again, was outfield errors. I didn't notice it. I mean, if anything, I just noticed a weird outfield play, honestly, and I'm kind of worried about having that like that, but I'll see how it goes for a game or so. It's not a big deal. Even if it gets scored a triple, it's not going to really make a big difference. So, but yeah, that's it. I'm going to actually wrap up the stream here, but there were a ton of comments. I'm sorry, I just didn't get a chance to even get to them. Ryan, if you're still here, I don't know if there's something like super pressing that I may want to answer for anybody, but.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, I'm still here. No, there wasn't. Some people just kind of talk a lot about Yarborough, and a lot of people have had similar experiences dealing with him. It seems like people were kind of calling him a glitch a little bit in the game. That it's very difficult to square up. And yeah, that was kind of a lot of the chat. A little bit about the power, which we did talk about. So. Yeah, that was most of it. I was going to ask you, I find that one of the things that kind of keeps me very engaged with this game, even though there's, other options out there, and there is certainly warranted criticism of franchise mode, and you've talked a lot about it, but just like the hitting, I find that it's very relative to real life, where sometimes I'll go through a stretch where I'm just feeling really good, seeing the ball well, and then I'll go through those stretches where you're just kind of fighting it. It seems like maybe you're fighting it a little bit right now. Is there anything you kind of think about or do in those moments? Like I'll jump into practice mode sometimes just to kind of get a little bit of a feel. That sometimes will help, although I mean it's probably just like a pseudo thing. But yeah, like. But it definitely seems to mirror real life, and that sometimes you just feel really good up there and feel like you're seeing things, and then other times you're kind of fighting it.
Yeah, I think the most important part to that is just being confident in your approach and just knowing that, like, again, like this game, I mean, we had what did I have, 2-3 hits or something like that. But I was making good contact, and so I don't want to overthink it and start. It's anything in life, right? If you start overthinking anything you're doing, it's not going to help your performance. Certainly, you can reflect on things, but like at the end of the day, keep a simple approach. And I really think batting is a very complex thing. It's like a golf swing, and if you start making the thinking that's involved with it also complex, you're done for. There's just no way. You can practice it. You can kind of be thinking in a complex manner when you're practicing, but when you go up there, again, whether it's a golf club or a baseball bat, it's like you just have to kind of just trust the process that you've been working on, and just keep it really simple. Like for me, it's look fastball, react to breaking ball, and then after that, it's only swing if I know I'm going to make good contact, and that's really hard because you have a split second to make all of those decisions, but eventually it becomes instinct. And if you're trying to think during that half second, you're not going to be able to, right? So I think just really sticking with it is probably the best advice. Don't overthink it. I think getting into doing some practice is totally fine. Because if anything, that probably just reinforces a little bit of confidence and just knowing like, yeah, no, what I'm doing works, and just sticking with it. Because if you start going in and changing things, and then specifically for a video game, if you start going in and while you're batting, you're thinking about how the sliders are reacting and things like that. I mean, that's just too much noise, right? So just try and keep it simple. Good question, though.
Cool. Yeah, I hear you. Thank you. Yeah, makes sense. I've had to fight that a little bit. You're right, though. You just got to trust that approach.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Doug's asking what time tomorrow. I don't know. My wife's just about to walk by me. Dearest wife, what time am I going to stream tomorrow? She just goes, what? They want to know what time I'm streaming tomorrow.
After we go get donuts.
After we go get donuts. We're getting donuts tomorrow? Apparently after I get a donut tomorrow.
10:30, 11.
10:30 or 11. I guess that's Pacific time. So I don't know. Who knows? I'll try to. I always say I'll tweet it out ahead of time, but then I feel like a pest because it also tweets out when the stream goes, and it's just too much tweeting. So just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Look at that's the greatest segue ever. Then you'll know, and even if you can't watch it live, it's okay because you can watch it and ask questions through the comments and things like that. So, but I'm gonna wrap it up because I do have to get running here. Brian, thank you so much for joining and co-hosting with this. That was fun, and it actually worked way better than I thought it did. So, or I thought it was going to.
We'll have to do it again from time to time. Yeah.
Thanks, yeah, right. I know you got a busy schedule too, so we'll talk about all that. But thanks everybody again. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll see you tomorrow at some point.